Thank you all for your interest in this topic. I love talking about this. I get very excited. And basically, just to give you a little bit of context, I told you all, but for some of the new people that came in, I partner with founders of really small. I work with founders of small teams, and I basically help them tell their story, implement some video marketing in their business to help them grow it through some paid distribution. And so, just to recap what I mentioned earlier, I'm also going to be putting on my hat as the owner of my own business and what I'm doing to get in front of my ideal clients as well, and hopefully earn some more revenue generating clients. So with that, what I'm going to walk through today is basically cover today's technology landscape. It's getting easier and easier to create videos, and like everyone has a webcam nowadays, and these are becoming really simple tools to start producing valuable video content. I want to walk away with you all having a good understanding of, I think, the two questions that I know I come up against when I work for myself and my clients, and that's who am I creating for and what do I create for them? And then lastly, I'm going to be walking through some really easy value creation frameworks that you can start implementing tomorrow. And also just for questions, like I know we have a pretty small group, so feel free to either throw it in the chat. Dalil can stop me, or I don't mind if you interrupt me as well. Would love to make this a conversation for you all as we go along. But first off, today's landscape, everyone has smartphones and video cameras in their pockets. And so everyone has a tool to be able to create video content. And I think this is important to understand because it's a level playing field out there. And so with that in mind, now that everyone is getting more access, there's a lot of technology that's making it easier. The playing field is even, and there's a lot of opportunities for people to step up. And especially on a platform like LinkedIn, I think it's still only 1% of all active users are actually creating their own original content. Everyone else is either resharing or they're just engaging in the comments. And so it's a great opportunity to add value to your network and stand out in a community of people that isn't quite yet active yet on their own original content creation. So the $1 million question, what do I even create? And I think to answer this well, there's a question before this that I think a lot of people miss out on, and it's who am I creating for? And so I think having a clear understanding of who your ideal client persona is going to be a big driver for the kind of content that you create to reach these people. And it's a process I work through with my clients. It's something I'm continually going through myself. And when you understand your audience, their goals, their desires, their challenges, you're going to be able to be in a position where you can share how you can help solve for those things with your unique mechanism. And so I saw a question on LinkedIn the other day. Someone posted, he is actually a technology writer. He wants to work with tech companies to do a lot of their blog writing. And he asked, when I'm starting to build an audience, do I start broad and to try to appeal to everyone, or do I get very narrow and specific and try to appeal to everyone? And I want to kind of walk through three scenarios, right? When it comes to an audience and creating content, there's two levels of specificity that I think is going to resonate: the audience and the topic. Okay. So if you're going broad, let's say you're Steve. Steve is a content marketer at a tech company, and he's responsible for contracting writers to write the case studies of their clients. And as someone as a writer who's trying to get more writing opportunities, the question was, do I go, hey, all content marketers, here's how you write better case studies? Who do you think is going to raise their hand for that? Not many people. It's very broad. It doesn't speak to me. A little bit more specific is, hey, if you're in a B2B tech company, here's one thing that you may be missing out on in your case study. Way more specific, because you have the persona and a very specific challenge that they're running into with a case study. Or you can get even more granular and you can make it a one-to-one relationship. Hey, Steve, I read your case study about how you helped Acme increase their efficiencies. There's something I noticed in your case study that seems a little bit confusing. Would you like me to send you a video to teach you a quick trick that might capture more attention in your blog? If I'm Steve, I think I'm going to respond better to the very specific one that's personalized to me. And so this is why it's really important to understand who are the people that you can serve and how can you help them do better at their jobs? So what we're looking at here is a very oversimplified system that I implement for my clients using video. And so I say this is oversimplified because this isn't really the ideal path. But basically, it's taking your ideal clients and you're creating a video that communicates the value that you have to offer. And so the purpose of this video is to build a relationship. I always encourage show up. You are the face of your company. This is you. When you're on it, you're building a relationship with the time that someone spends with you. And also creating a video in a way that's designed to increase emotional and logical certainty in their decision, right? And so what I do from a pay distribution perspective is we define the person, and then we're trying to bring people into this video and piggy bank. This almost looks like a dehumanizing way because like it looks like we're just using people for money, but unfortunately some advertisers out there do, and that's why I try to just partner with meaningful clients who are doing meaningful things. So that way I feel better about actually doing these advertisings, because a lot of people feel negatively about advertising. But does this kind of make sense as far as how we try to basically increase the inputs, right? And so on a platform like LinkedIn and social media, you have an ability to reach a multitude of people. And so we want to create content in a way that gets people to raise their hand and say, hey, I need help with that thing, and I would love to work with you. But something you may run into, and the honest truth is the majority of people that you get in contact with aren't going to be ready to buy yet. And so it's important to understand that there is this customer journey that you have to consider. And oftentimes a lot of businesses are going to be marketing to people who are at the bottom of the funnel. And so here, if we look at the buying readiness journey, first you have to become aware. You have to become aware that either you've run into a problem or you desire to do a little bit better at your job. Then you're going to be considering, it's like, okay, I've clearly named this problem or this desire, and now I'm making considerations as far as how I want to solve for that. And then finally, you're in the state of decision. Decision is like, okay, I've defined the solution for how I want to overcome, right? So if we look at an example here, Jenny, the gym owner, this is from an example of HubSpot. So this is I'll have a link to this resource at the end of the deck. But basically, it's understanding that, okay, she's interested in buying a new gym. She's going to be a brand new gym owner. In the awareness stage, she may be reading, a beginner's guide to gym equipment. She may be looking at a content series that kind of talks on alternate pieces of equipment. She may be comparing, do I go new or do I buy used equipment? These are the kind of pieces of content and like search queries that is going to resonate with someone who's just aware. Okay, now she's like, okay, this is something I really want to do. Now I got to consider my options. So now at this point, it comes down to understanding the budgeting and expensing of investing into this as a first-time owner. And also, okay, how do I purchase this? So like maybe there's a company that offers like a purchase timeline template. And finally, when she's ready to make a decision, she goes to an equipment manufacturer and she fills out a form to get a consultation or a quote to the product. And so as a company, you can create content that adds value at the awareness stage, adds value at the consideration stage. And then when they're ready to make a decision, it's like, I know who to pick, this company who's been helping me the whole entire way. And so one of the courses I've taken from an advertising perspective and understand how this applies to when we're investing our time into something is 3% of people that we run into are going to be in buying mode. They're going to have that pain, they're going to have that desire, and they're going to be ready to make a decision. The rest of the 97 people are going to be in the awareness and the consideration stage. And so that's why it's important to be creating some valuable content for people who are in that stage. So understanding that journey, it comes down to kind of playing the long game with our strategy. Is that landing with everyone? Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, awesome. Now, I came across this amazing guy, Josh Braun, and he's the founder of Sales DNA. And he honestly really flipped the script of a lot of what I was, and changed my mindset a lot that actually influenced a lot of what we're talking about today. And it's the idea that he always tells me to make more deposits. Everything you do should be making a deposit. And here's the language. I want to know how I can kick more ass in my business. And if you can provide that for someone, whether it's a prospect or content you're posting on LinkedIn, that helps people. People are going to they're going to trust you. They're going to come to like you, and they're going to come to know you. And so your job isn't necessarily to sell. It's your job is to teach a new way of thinking. And so a quick example with Josh Braun is he has a course that's $197, and it's called The Badass Guide to B2B Growth. The first time I landed on that page, I saw the price tag and I left. I wasn't ready to buy. But then I listened to 4 of his podcasts. I went back to his website. I watched 2 of his videos, and I'm like, man, I'm like learning so much. And I like got so much value from what he shared that I went and bought that same day when I finished one of his videos. And so I spent time with Josh from his podcast. I spent time with him in his videos, and I built that trust with him that made me commit, that made me feel like that purchase was like a no-brainer.
So Kristian, I had a question in regards to that. So in terms of, you said, so you listen to Forrest's podcast before making that purchase. Is that pretty typical? Like, how many touch points have you seen in your experience is required in terms of the content that you're creating in order to get a person to maybe convert into like the decision process?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think that's a little bit different, right? Because when it comes to these kind of touch points, this is a harder thing to measure. But what I've been noticing in my own business is this year, I really started investing into creating a lot of videos where I'm trying to teach and educate people on how to do better in their own video marketing. And I've been doing that for about 60, 80 days now consistently, where I'm posting maybe 3 times a week. And I'll be clear that these videos themselves aren't selling anything. But what I'm finding is by posting and showing them consistently, and I'm also actively prospecting and adding people to my network who I think are in my ideal client persona. When I reach out to have a conversation, I feel that they're a lot more disarmed because I start receiving compliments of like, hey, I love your videos. Hey, these videos are great. We're thinking about doing something like this. So over time, this is going to be something where it's going to benefit you. So posting is kind of like a long-term game. And I think it all depends on the investment point too, right? $197 to me, that wasn't a big deal, but there's other offers that have a higher level of commitment, a higher level of investment. And so it may take a longer sales process, right? So if you think about an e-commerce website, that's the shortest sales process ever. And those products are pretty cheap. So a common strategy is, you see an advertisement on Instagram, then you're on a page, and then you're buying. For something like a SaaS company, you may see an advertisement, you may go read a blog, you may request a demo, you get that demo, you may have a follow-up conversation. And so there's more touch points to get to an invested client. So I think it all depends on the journey, and every business is different. For my business, it's a touch point to a discovery call. And from that discovery call, we advance to a strategy session. And then from that strategy session, we see if there's a commitment to invest. Does that make more sense? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's perfect. And I love how you said too, it's all about like the patience of consistently posting and not expecting the return to happen immediately, which is the big thing there.
Totally.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we move on?
Heather in the chat says, give to get. So
give to get, exactly. Yeah, that's a great philosophy. And I think we're starting to see that a lot more nowadays, because ever since COVID, the sales landscape has really changed. Like before, and I think people are getting smarter. They're getting more receptive to what's an ad and who's actually trying to help me. And I think the more you try to help, the more people are going to pick up on that. And so with the idea of Josh, going back to Josh's, make more deposits before you ask for a withdrawal, right? So so I like to think about it. How can I create content that is making a deposit in whoever's viewing it, so that they feel that they've already gotten an investment before even purchasing anything? So with that principle in mind, the rest of this presentation is going to be 2 frameworks that I use that are really simple to create content, and it's just with a webcam. Just keep in mind the principles of making more deposits, okay? So the first way that I think is a really easy way to start generating some more awareness is using Zoom. And with a little bit of makeup, you can make a compelling video podcast. And this is a framework where I'm going to introduce this company called Tribetactics, called episodic content marketing. Think of it as a podcast. There's different episodes, but I recommend video is a great starting point, because that can be repurposed in a numerous amounts of different ways. And so we saw, I think some of you may be familiar with Sylvia Lee. She's here in part of our community. She created this framework a series called The 3 Secrets of Success. And then she interviews a variety of different people, and she keeps it short. She has a format where every episode, you're going to get 3 new secrets from a different person's business. And so it's like always adding value. I've seen some other guy on LinkedIn who does like 5 rapid fire questions. And so you're getting a really short 5-minute video. So there's a lot of formats. It can be short form, long form. And I'll introduce a little bit of a framework of how you can begin to think about a original series. And so as you can see here, you're probably seeing a lot of Zoom content these days. And with a little bit of makeup, you can make it look visually branding. So that way people start to have a little bit of identity with your brand and what is being offered. And so from one Zoom meeting, you can upload the full conversation onto YouTube, where it's always accessible for anyone who's looking back and wants to see the full conversation. And then you can cut segments out to post on the LinkedIn. So basically from like one episode, you could probably get 2 to 3 pieces of content that you can distribute on LinkedIn. So with that in mind, Tribetactics is a company based out of Dublin. My friend Kareem, they're doing some really awesome things. And the way that they're solving for companies starting to market more of the awareness type of content is with an episodic framework. And so these are 4 pillars of you plan a show. And again, understanding who your ideal client is going to determine who your guests are. And the thing that I think a really simple way to create valuable content for your ideal clients is to invite your ideal clients onto your show. And that way you have a really intimate way to build a relationship with them, understand exactly what they're going through. And then when you share that, it's going to resonate with more people who are in that same realm, who have the same challenges and goals. Josh Braun is another great example. All his podcasts are around selling. So he brings any guest he brings on, the philosophy always ties back to how do you become a better seller. There's a lot of things here, like there's a blog, I'll link to this, that kind of really breaks it down. But Tribetactics really talks about the whole production thing, but this framework can be applied using a Zoom meeting. It's the easiest way. And I think it's also a great way to kind of get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Because I know that my friend Jerry, he talked to me and he's like, Kristian, he's like, you should be a fly on the wall in my house, because when my wife brings something up, I can go off for 45 minutes on this subject. But then when I try to do it by myself to post on Facebook or something, I can't. And I'm like, Jerry, maybe you just don't need to do it by yourself. What if you just invite a friend onto Zoom, you have a passionate conversation and you record it, and then you can take that and upload it. I think I have more fun doing it with friends. I set up calls all the time where I'm like, hey, let's jam out on these marketing topics. Let's talk for 30 minutes. You have fun. And then you each walk away with a video that you can kind of repurpose and share. A little bit more on the repurposing. You can upload it to YouTube, the full video and conversation, just so it's archived. You can use a transcription service like rev.com. So you can basically extract all the written words from it and post it up as a blog. And finally, you can create short segments from it and distribute it on LinkedIn. And Tribetactics, there's other companies doing this as well. Soon we're going to have a lot of artificial intelligence, scary word, but it's going to make this process of repurposing so much easier. And so Tribetactics is currently building a tool. There's some other companies building a tool that's going to make it super painless to upload that content. And then it's going to recommend topics. You're going to be able to cut segments with the captions automatically in it. So right now that is a big pain point in this process, all the editing, the captioning, But soon we're going to have tools that just makes it even more effortless, which is why I think now is a really good time to start getting comfortable and practicing with friends or people you want to interview to create this kind of content, because now it's going to be easy and accessible to everyone.
Hey, Kristian. We had a question come in on the chat. So
yeah.
Question from Tanya. So do you need the paid version of Zoom to create what Sylvia has done?
Good question. I believe the free version of Zoom lets you, has a 40-minute cap, but I believe with the free version you can download. So keep in mind, if you go with the free route, you're going to be limited to a 40-minute meeting.
Perfect.
Awesome. The other tool is Loom, right? So we have the idea of there's a content that's one to many. So something that's posted on LinkedIn that many people can see. But my secret weapon in my outreach is using Loom to send a very personalized outreach video. So if you're familiar with the lingo of prospecting, there's you can cast a net and try to get a lot of fish that way, or you can go spearfishing and really go with the targeted approach and do a lot of research on someone and send them a very personalized video. This is one of my favorite ways to get in front of someone, because another Josh Braun quote is, how do you stand out in a series of rectangles, right? And so it's like, if you think about a LinkedIn chat room for like private messages, it's all white. Everyone's has a white text, but when someone sends a voice message, it shows a blue box. So that's like immediately something like, ooh, that's new. What is that? I want to learn more. And so video is just something, a new way to stand out, because a lot of people are just either calling, they're going by text. And so I love it. I'm going to walk through some examples that have just been really one of like my highlight moments when it comes to outreach. And so when you think about back to the quote of, our job isn't to sell, it's to teach a new way of thinking. So this is an outreach video that I sent to one of my previous colleagues from my old company, where now she's the director of marketing at a company called 86 Repairs. We saw their visual templates there. I saw her post a job position for a marketing coordinator. She was hiring a marketing coordinator, and I read the job description, and it called out job requirements like lead generation, all these things that my business can help with. And so I took the time to make this video with her, and I basically educated her on a new way of thinking. And I said, Ariel, hey, I saw that you're posting a marketing coordinator role, and that's so great. But then this is like the most bold outreach video I've ever done, because I said, how much time do you think it's going to take for you to onboard a marketing coordinator to learn how to do lead generation for your company? I said, B, it's probably going to cost your company at least $50,000, $70,000 a year to have a new employee in the company. And then I kind of introduced myself of, imagine like an investment with someone like me would be a fraction of the cost of hiring a brand new employee, and I can help you get the same results. And we were going to start working together, but then obviously COVID happened, and so they had to shut down all their big budget spends. But that's just I think a really clever example of, I wasn't trying to sell her. I was just trying to show her a third door that she might have not been aware of. And this is my most prized one. So Josh Braun, the man whose course I bought, I ended up pitching him back. Okay. And so after devouring his podcast, learning from some of his videos, I noticed that his YouTube channel was very disorganized. And so in my outreach email, I didn't sell him. I complimented him on the course, and I said, hey, you know what, Josh, as a student who loves learning, there was something on your YouTube channel that I noticed that made it really hard for me to learn. And I'm wondering if this would be interesting to you. And if you knew about this, would you be interested in learning how to fix it? And he was like, yep, I'd love to know. And he said, hey, I'm always open to new ideas that can help me kick more ass, and thanks for the kind words. And so I took his own words and I said, here's 2 ideas to kick more ass. And he hired me on the spot with that video. So back to that, making more deposits, teaching someone something new that they may not be aware of, is a philosophy that I've been adopting now to start earning new deals with prospects. And bonus points, that post was very specific, a highly researched piece of content, but I think there's more people like Josh who are struggling with this. So I ended up taking that same lesson and turning it into a post that I think applies to a broader audience to LinkedIn. And so someone like, that's just going back to the persona. When you identify a persona, there's going to be a lot of the whole spectrum of people who are dealing with some of the similar challenges that one person individual may be experiencing. And that's pretty much the system that I'm using for prospecting, for my top of the funnel marketing, as well as my prospecting outreach. And it's been working well so far this year. And so I'd love to just kind of, that's the end of my presentation. And so would love to just kind of workshop with people, talk through if anyone has scenarios that we can kind of brainstorm around and help you out with. We'd love to just kind of open the floor and see what people would love to bring to the table.
Yeah, so if you have a question, you can go off mute and then feel free to ask the question directly to Kristian. I might start it off, Kristian. So you mentioned the Zoom. So Zoom is a great way to like just get on a call with someone and start recording some videos and then repurposing that across the board. Have you found that when you're recording those Zoom meetings, you have to do multiple takes, or like how do you go about like not getting discouraged once you start? Because I actually recorded like a Zoom presentation that was like take after take to get the right version, right? And so that could be a little bit discouraging. But what's your advice for someone that might be recording via Zoom?
Sure. And so I just unpacked that a little bit more. What was the use, or what were you trying to create with that?
So those were the videos that I posted on LinkedIn. So it was like Zoom and Slack integration, Zoom and or Slack and Google Calendar integration. Some of those more like tutorials or like demo videos, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, I'm going to stop sharing just so we can all look at the video again, or but to answer your question,
there you go.
It does take takes, right? Like Catherine, she's a speaking coach, and I know for me, it takes practice. Like the outreach video I sent to Josh, it took me like 5 takes to perfect it. And so it's just like, part of my process is getting warmed up to the idea, because when I write something on paper and then I say it out loud for the first time, I just refine it over and over again. And so I think that's just a common thing to practice. I'm practicing. It takes me a few times to say things. And so I wouldn't beat yourself up about it. It's like just normal thing. And the more practice you get, the better you'll become at that as well.
Awesome.
So I like Omar's question. Do you have to be proficient in Adobe Premiere Pro to actually produce decent videos, or is there an app you use to help produce the videos, i.e. the banners and the captions? I'm going to drop a link. So there's this tool called Filmora, Filmora. And I believe Sylvia uses this, and I think it's $70 for life. And it comes with a lot of templates to create those banners, those title sequences, and I think some logo animation. And I think that's a really simple tool where you can add visual reinforcement to your video content.
Great.
Tanya.
Kristian? Yeah, I'd like to ask, what is your take on going live in LinkedIn as opposed to making your own video? Would you mind just elaborating on that? Totally.
Yeah. So live on LinkedIn, and I think right now that's a feature that's being rolled out. So I think you have to apply to LinkedIn to get it. But live is going to invite a new audience, whether it's on Facebook or on LinkedIn. I think it takes a certain type of person who shows up to interact with you live. And I think it's something similar to this where I think it works best when it's very conversational. I find that a lot of the successful live streams come from a conversational where it's like a Q&A call. And it's just building that relationship. There's someone named Morgan Ingram. He's also a sales coach on LinkedIn where he does it on the weekends. And they just talk about normal life. Like they talk about what happens from 5 to 9 or 5 to 9, like outside of office hours. So I think from that perspective, it's a great way to build an authentic relationship that maybe isn't necessarily around work. And I also see it work well if you do have like some sort of a live workshop that you want to facilitate people through. But to your point, live versus a post, the live videos on Facebook, I know for sure. I haven't tested on LinkedIn. It doesn't, what am I trying to say? It's just like a long format rather than a short video that you may be able to post on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if that answered your question, or if you have a more specific, another way to reframe it.
Yeah, I think so. So on Facebook, it's become very popular. You just do a live now. You don't even make a video. It's the norm to make a Facebook Live to, I guess, gain quick exposure, but also it just seems the norm. But here on LinkedIn, I don't see many people doing LinkedIn Lives, and I'm wondering whether or not, from an algorithm point of view, when you do a live, you actually create more traffic because of the fact it is in this moment, and I'm brave enough to show up on screen and, hey, come and join me.
Yep. No, you're, from an algorithm perspective, yes, it's going to be the priority notification that you see go to the top. Like whenever I'm on LinkedIn and someone goes live, it shows up as a banner, like very obvious, like, hey, this is happening. It's like a live event that you can walk into right now and interact with. So I can't speak too much to it. I don't do it myself. But what I think it does create is just a very real experience where it's like real-time engagement, as if you were to walk to a farmer's market down the road, and you're interacting with a community of people.
Yeah, one thing I will say to that is we had actually explored the possibility of doing LinkedIn Live. We did a Facebook Live 2 or 3 months ago for this group. And going back to what you were saying, you have to apply for the LinkedIn Live. It's not something that just like anyone can kind of go on and do. So there is a little bit of a barrier to entry. And one of the things on their form that they want to make sure you're doing is that it's something that you can keep up with consistently. And so that's probably why it's been mostly the larger companies that you've seen going live, because it's not really that accessible to everyone yet, versus some of the other platforms where, you know, they're not making sure that everything looks super professional and quality camera and things like that. But they do have resources up for like programs that you can use that I saw when we had looked into it briefly. But that might be why you're not seeing as many of those.
Cool. Thanks for that, Jenny.
Any other questions before we head over to the chat?
So Michelle here, I'm a voice talent. I market a lot on LinkedIn and share many of my jobs and projects. And I'm always trying to focus on other creative professionals involved in it. I've thought of sending videos to past clients on LinkedIn, maybe offering a testimonial for them as a way to reconnect with some past clients and offer something, a deposit, which will also be bringing me back into their mind. Thoughts on that? Michelle, so are you saying you would make a testimonial of how someone has impacted you? Or could you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, just like, so I'm the voice talent, but I work with like a lot of producers and a lot of like creative professionals and audio engineers and different people. So like I could offer them in that video, I could offer them like, a testimonial on LinkedIn. So like,
yeah, yes, I love that. I love, like, I think doing public, like I've seen public prospecting. I did a public testimonial video with Josh Braun where basically I was like, hey, this is how your thing impacted me. And I think that's just public acknowledgements, I think, are awesome. There's a company out there who they literally call out their prospect and like, we would love to have you on our show. And it's just really fun. People like buy into it. They're like, it's like a cool real-time thing that I think is unique and different, that doesn't happen very often. And I think it really resonates and people love that stuff.
I always try to lead with, like, every time I post something, I always try to lead with gratitude. Like, you know, instead of just like, here's some more of my work, like, here's another project I did. I like hate that. So it's more like, you know, so excited I got to work with this amazing motionographer. Like, his work is so beautiful. Check out his video, you know, like, try to, like, you know, always lead with gratitude. Yeah,
that's great, because what you're doing is, that's like, I think that's a valuable thing. You're acknowledging someone as a testimonial. That person will probably reshare it, and it's just going to start reaching that other degree of connection and more people. And so even from the idea of, let's say you have guests on your video podcast, You could repurpose it where, hey, here's something I said that's really cool that I'm going to post on my channel, but then my guest said something really cool and they can post it on their channel. And it just gets more visibility into your brand and what your interaction created onto the web.
Yeah. I always try to do like I try to go with like the days, like for myself, like I'll just post something, a project I did, but like I'll do like Testimonial Tuesday where I'll do like a testimonial I got, which, and then, wow, it was so great to work with them. Look what they said, cause you're trying to promote yourself, but also like promote them. And then on Fridays, I do Pay It Forward Friday, where I'll talk about someone else's talent on a Friday. So try to, mix it up so you're not all about, right?
Yeah. I like what I've noticed on LinkedIn is when it's like a very, I think, communal platform, and when like a post goes viral, it's because either it's people are getting tagged on it or it's getting shared. And so the more you partner up with people and you do kind of, I think, collaborative content, it's just getting more opportunity to reach new people.
Yeah. Thank you.
I had a quick question regarding length. So you talk about, if you have a long form content sort of podcast or video in that general recorded Zoom session, what about when you post to like, LinkedIn or YouTube? What is, obviously you're going to keep someone's attention for, 15 seconds, let's say, but what is it, a minute? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 5 minutes? Like what is, maybe you could go over a little bit of that. Like what's the kind of, I know depends on category and people.
That's a great question. My take on it is, the more time someone has to interact with you, the better they're going to get to know and trust you. And as long as you're providing value, I think the length is awesome. And so to your point though, YouTube is a great platform where it's, as Dalil said, it's the world's second largest search engine. And so there's a high intent behind that. People are going to come and look for something very specific. And because they have that intention, they're going to sit with it longer. I commonly watch hour-long video podcasts on YouTube. But on LinkedIn, people are on that platform. They may be busy with other things in life. And so they're scrolling through the feed. And so there, I think it's a better opportunity to stop someone if it's shorter.
So from that search engine perspective, would you kind of break videos up on YouTube to say, here's kind of the big processes, in 3 videos as opposed to maybe the 1 10-minute video, sort of like the Joe Rogan clips style, where, how you can go into his content and you would see how it's just the, here's this one bit about Elon Musk something, and then the next part of the episode might be chunked out into a different spot.
Great question. So that's a good question, because I read this book on copywriting, and it said that every post, I recommend, like, especially this is from a copywriting perspective, so take it for the grain of salt when it comes to content, but basically it's like, write something that has one main idea, one emotional benefit, one outcome, like the power of one main idea. I used to just try to pack so much into a video. That's just so much. But if you can break it out and deliver one main idea in each piece of content, people are going to know what they're going to get.
Okay. Thank you.
So Omar has a comment here. I see videos produced by some that touch on topics that are so broad or have nothing to do with what they sell. Is there a reason behind the strategy? Is it to cast a wider net, get as many people to engage? And then those that are in their networks fall in your target persona, we'll see their engagement. So I think the question here, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I think it's how deep do you go? In my opinion, I think the more specific you get, specificity is going to be key, right? And so if you think about this from an average, so back to my original discussion, you can either make a post that says, hey, content marketers, here is how you can write a better case study, versus something that's like, hey, if you're in the B2B tech space, here's what you should consider in your case studies. One is going to be super broad, and maybe a whole slew of people maybe there's going to be some people who are in your persona, but if you're specifically calling out who you're going after, I think you're more likely to land something that sticks. Because if you're scrolling through, and I'm a B2B tech person and I see that called out, I'm going to stop on it. But if I see something that's too broad, I may just skim over it. So it does take more time, but I think it's worthwhile in the long run.
Can I ask, Kristian, at the moment you can leave a voice message on LinkedIn to a prospective person who's connected with you to say, hey, thank you so much. Is there the opportunity to leave a personal video, or do you need to go to a site like Loom or BombBomb make the video and send it to their email?
So on the mobile phone, you can actually record a video straight from the app.
Okay.
Yep. So that's totally possible.
And that's a great tool. So if you guys are heavily using LinkedIn, I would highly recommend sending a video. And even if it's to like a contact you just want to like reconnect with or catch up with, the power of video is pretty amazing. I had someone send me one that I haven't talked to him in a while. He sent me a video, just said, "Hey, Dalil, looking to reconnect, see how things are going." I was almost like blown away. I was like, A, I didn't really know you could do that. And then B, I was like, absolutely, let's get on a call this week and chat and see like how things are going, because he took the time to personally like address me and let me know, hey, how's it going? Just want to check in. So it was that extra layer of transparency or like communication that you can see. So you get the audio, you get the visual, and then you get the whole thing combined in one package. I had another question, Kristian. So in terms of tools, what would you say are some, like you mentioned like Loom, you mentioned Zoom. Are there other like tools that you've seen or tried over and over again that you're like, hey, this is kind of something that I've learned through experience that everyone should be using?
Yeah, I think the one I called out, Loom, there's other personal outreach videos. I think, Tanya, you mentioned BombBomb. There's I think Vidyard. I'm not sure if that's one. Soapbox. But I think there's a lot of tools that accomplish the same thing. And that's basically the ability for you to send a very highly personalized video. And I actually use it too on my LinkedIn newsfeed, because Loom is great, because like this Canva presentation I shared today, I'll make like a mini one and send someone like a presentation with visuals as well. And so I'm a big fan of Loom because it records from your webcam and your screen at the same time. And so it's great for tutorials. Back in my days of software consulting, I would use it as training. If someone sent me an email of like, hey, Kristian, how do I do this thing with this software? And instead of me typing out an email, I'll just send them a Loom video, because it just takes way less time. And so I think it's just a powerful and simple way to communicate there. As far as other tools that we haven't mentioned yet, nothing is coming to mind. Filmora I learned of recently. It's a really easy editing tool for people who aren't ready to dive into the Adobe world yet. And so I think that's a really great place to start if you are making videos and you want to add some of the visual reinforcements of like titles and logos and things like that. Yeah, I think that's all that's coming to mind at this point.
Great. Any other questions? We're a few minutes ahead of schedule, so we can take a few more questions before we go into the networking portion where we break everyone out into rooms. So any last minute questions?
I'm wondering if,
hey,
go ahead, Shane.
Kristian, sorry, I have one here. So working on starting my own e-commerce store. Would probably just start selling one product, whether it's Shopify or might even just go Amazon first, just because it's a little bit easier to set up. In your time, I know with Amazon, it's usually like a 30 or 40-minute video. What's the most effective way you've seen some of these people who are setting up their own e-commerce stores advertise their products? Because you see some like away, it's them taking the suitcase, apart. Some are just hype videos. Some are promoting the brand. What's the most successful things you've seen with that?
What kind of a product are you selling?
It would be like a home decor product.
Okay. I think demonstration videos, I see a lot. Like whenever I get an Amazon link of a product and it's actually showing me how to use it, I'm like, oh, cool. I see myself doing that. But Shane, what I'm going to do is actually, I'm connected with an amazing woman, Danielle, and she's an Amazon e-commerce guru. And so I'll point you to her, and you'll be able to see some amazing examples of how she helps her brands with e-commerce space. And you'll see some great examples of e-commerce videos there too.
Awesome. Thank you.
For sure. Joe asks, what kind of microphone do you recommend? I'm using a Blue Yeti mic. I love it. I think it's about a $90 investment if you don't get this arm. And I think it's great. This is great for podcasting. It's great for what we're doing now. I use it for voiceovers and tutorial videos as well. So Blue Yeti's good. And I think, I can't remember the name. I think it's like Snow microphone. I'm not sure. Does that ring a bell for anyone? I'm going to see. Snow microphone. I think that's another entry level.
Snowball.
Yeah, the Blue Snowball. Yeah, it's from the same company, Blue. Really great brand that has really crisp audio. I'm curious, is anyone here? Does anyone have like someone in mind that they would want to send a personal outreach video to? No? All right.
Were we going to all practice using the actual app to send a video? Is that what you had in mind, Kristian? So we
Well, I
can
was
all
just
practice?
curious. Well, not from a practice perspective. I was just curious if there's anyone who's is interested in approaching like that from like a prospecting perspective. Who would you send it to? Is there someone you have in mind? I'm putting you on the spot here, but it's okay if you don't want to workshop it right now.
You have put me on the spot. I've got quite a few contacts, and you know what? Because I've only just started pivoting my business from customer service to now a total new playing field, I'm still working out who is my ideal client. And that's why I've done a video for nearly 90 days to kind of work out who is my ideal client based on the comments and who's viewing it. So I'd love to have a conversation off camera, just
Totally.
to possibly just, yeah, pan it out.
Yeah. No, 100%. Would love to.
Thanks.
And just to share, I think just something to comment on that. The persona is hard. It is, I think, a hard thing to really narrow that down. It's always shifting for me every day. But what I have found helpful is with this example with Josh Braun, where he was a real person that I saw that I could help. And I learned as much as I could around him. And now I can build a persona around a real person, because there's going to be more archetypes of people who have similar desires or challenges. And then that way it's easier to create content that's for the many, that may catch other people who are in that same sphere. Well, cool. If there are no other questions, I'm excited for these breakouts.
Cool. Last, before we go into the breakouts.
Wait. Brian did ask one more. Is that okay?
Yep, let's go for it.
All right. He asked, what is the best way to promote a video that someone has been working on for several years, but no more energy to release information slowly to build over time, all sort of at once? So it sounds like you have a really awesome project you've been working on, and you're trying to figure out how do you premiere this thing? Is this like sounds like you've been working on a feature film. Tell me more about this. This sounds interesting. You might be typing. But to riff a little bit more on that, I think there's building hype around something that you've been working on for a while, I think is great. If you have friends who can help promote it, I think that's a wonderful way to help people that you think are some people in your friendships that they can all, it all depends. I think it all comes down to you. I would definitely give it some space to promote it. Maybe set yourself a date 2 weeks out. Hey, I'm going to release this thing. And then over time, you kind of either have friends or you tease a little bit about it. It doesn't have to take so much effort, but just let us know that something's coming, and build it all up to one premiere event. You can do something like that on YouTube. You can upload a video and premiere it without it showing until that date. Cool. I hope that was helpful.
Great. So Kristian, final question for you. How can people get a hold of you is one thing. And then I think you had mentioned you have a special offering for all the attendees that join. So you have this sheet that you wanted to get out. So if they wanted to get access to that, how would that work?
So basically what I created, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Photoshop, but here at this link, I just have a free download that you can take for visual branding templates. If you are interested in starting at a Zoom show, they're Photoshop files. If you don't know how to use them, I'm happy to make a video to kind of walk through how to do that, but it's kind of similar to the templates that I had up earlier. And then in here, you'll see links to my pitch videos, just so you get an idea of my messaging and how I approach those when I look for my prospects that I reach out to.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, if you give me a few seconds here. So now this is the portion of the meeting where we go into the breakout rooms. It's a great way to kind of connect with other people in the community. I'll be breaking you out into these rooms for 15 minutes. It looks like we have roughly about 20 people still in the room. So what will happen is I'll break you out. You'll be able to conversate with the people in your room. One topic or maybe a discussion point is, what is one takeaway that you're looking to incorporate within the next 60 days that Kristian had mentioned? And I said 60 days, so it gives you a little bit of time to think about like, hey, what are some things that he mentioned that I want to start incorporating? So if you want to take this time, have a discussion, connect with some people after the end of the 15 minutes, we'll jump back into this room. I'll do final announcements and then we'll be on our way. So give me a few minutes.